Statements made are not the position of council and remain an individual's opinion. Council accepts no responsibility for any defamatory statements and all liability remains with the person making the remarks. And secondly, councillors, I'd like to just do an acknowledgement to country. I'd like to acknowledge the Gamilaroi people who are the traditional custodians of this land. I'd also like to pay respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to other Aboriginal people present here this evening. And now it's certainly with great pleasure that I'd ask everyone to stand and invite Pastor James Ardill to come to the rostrum to present our evening prayer. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, Cole. Heavenly Father, we acknowledge your hand over Tamworth and over the officers and staff of Tamworth Regional Council. We thank you for the resilience and health of the Tamworth community in these times of uncertainty. We ask for great wisdom and insight for the councillors as they govern for the common good and prosperity of all people in Tamworth and our region. We commend the staff of council for their integrity, dedication and professionalism as they serve our city and our people. Continue to pour out your favour upon all who call Tamworth home. In the name of our Lord Jesus, Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. So, councillors, I'd now like to declare the meeting open and call for apologies and leave of absence. And we do have this evening we have Councillor MP online, so we are all in attendance and we have no applications for leave of absence. Item 2 is community consultation. We have no community consultation or no members of the community registered to speak this evening. Item 3, minutes of the meeting. Could I have a mover and a seconder for the minutes? Councillor Inglis and Councillor Webb, thank you. Any matters arising from those minutes? If not, could I put that motion? Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The motion is carried. Item 4, disclosures of interest. Any councillors wish to register any disclosures? Councillor Inglis.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Items 9.1 and 9.2, and I'll give a copy of this. For reason that I'm a Director of State Cover Mutual Limited and Tamworth Regional Council is a member of State Cover Mutual Limited and holds a partly paid share in such entity. I'm declaring it as a less than significant non-pecuniary interest and I will remain in the chamber.
Thank you. Councillors, any other disclosures? If not, we'll move through. Item 5, there is no mayoral minute, and item 6, no notice of motion, and that brings us to item 7.1. And move Councillor Wilson and Councillor Maxwell. Thank you. Councillor Wilson, do you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, Mr Mayor, if I can speak to the motion recommendation and also add an additional dot point under dot point 3, a third point that an EOI be advertised to fill the vacancy for the third community member. So there are 3 hollow dot points at the end of dot point 3.
Councillor Wilson, could I just ask the seconder if
I'm happy with that.
Thank you. So we now have a motion. So, Councillor Wilson, I invite you to speak to your motion.
Yes, Mr Mayor, it's really rather gratifying now to have community members involved with the Heritage Working Group. Melinda Gill from the Historical Society has already worked with Council in this area in a consultant's position, and so it'll be a great asset. One of the advantages of heritage is rather interesting in the sense that often people think of heritage as built, but it's not. It's built, it's social, it's cultural, it's a site, and it's written and recorded history. And so to have members of the community with diverse interests is contributing to this fairly critical area and becoming more and more critical these days will be really valuable. And so it's a delight to have 2 new members and we're looking forward to a third.
Thank you. Any councillors wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Inglis.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just maybe not speaking against the motion, but just to get some clarification, because we can only deal with matters as they're written in front of us, and I've got a feeling that it might just be some poor wording in the minutes. But Annexure 2, the minutes of the 30th of April, there's a section in there where it states, and these are the words in the minutes, it states that a significant heritage listed building could be demolished and council is advised by the weekly email. Now, my guess is that's not intended, but that's what it says. So I'm just reading what's in front of me. I know how delegated authorities work and all the rest of it, and I've already had a bit of a chat with the Director of Planning, how that mattered, but the word significant heritage listed buildings are the words. And I just thought important to get a clarification on that, because it is in the minutes, that is the way it's written, but I get a feeling that's not the intention, that a significant heritage listed building could be demolished and we would find out in a weekly email.
Would be totally devastating.
Because that's what it says.
So, Gina, do you have any comment on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I'd agree with your comments, Councillor. But certainly if we had a development application to demolish a significant heritage building, significant heritage listed building, that would of course require a report from a heritage consultant. But it would be our practice certainly to bring that to the council for determination. So if that is helpful, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So, councillors, anybody wish to make comment? Councillor Wilson, would you like to close the debate?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Inglis. You certainly picked it in one. It wasn't the intention of the minutes to represent that idea. The discussion actually wrapped around the idea that as Tamworth grows and grows quite quickly, many of the precinct areas have significant buildings within that precinct, and there's the potential for them to be demolished without acknowledgements and perhaps through private certifiers and rebuilt. That was quite worrying to the working group, and so the intent was for the any proposal that comes into council, any DAs that come into council for a building to be demolished, then that information is given to the working group so that an assessment can be made whether it's worth working group having input into that item. So it might not be significant, it might be something that is important, and still it's important that the working group receive notification of that. I absolutely agree. Those minutes need to reflect the intent of that discussion. Thanks.
Thank you. So, councillors, that closes the debate. I'll now put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The motion is carried. Item 8.1. Councillor Inglis and Councillor Webb, thank you. Councillor Inglis, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I've never played croquet, Mr. Mayor, but I'm more than happy to move this motion.
Thank you. Councillors, any wish to speak against the motion? Any councillors wish to make comment? No, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against?
Aye.
The motion is carried. And item 8.2, Victoria Park Master Plan. With Councillor Wilson and Councillor Betts, thank you. Councillor Wilson, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Mr. Mayor, just to say that congratulations to all that's involved. The process with both within council and the consultation and collaboration that's been done outside council with the community has been of the highest order, and the outcome and the interest that's been generated for that amazing area has been of the highest order. It's been professional, it's been pitched at all different levels, and it just breeds excitement with the potential of this area and all it can offer. It's quite interesting because many people didn't have a clue what we were talking about when you say Victoria Park. Nobody had any idea of what it was. So maybe one of the first things we do is look at giving it a name or branding it really conspicuously. The thing I also like about this, because the future of this area has been moulded, it now gives people the opportunity to come in, whether it's short-term, long-term or medium-term, and value add to that component, whether it be in the botanical gardens, the lookout, marsupial park. The one thing I would like to see though is passive cycling remain in the area. Obviously not mountain tracks, but passive cycling where families can cycle together and see some of the attractions just with their own means.
Thank you. Any councillors wish to speak against the motion? Any councillors wish to make comment? Councillor Betts?
Just very briefly, Mr Mayor, excellent report, but in the commentary on page 10, it's got astrological education. I don't think it's that. I think we might have astrophysics or something like that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Betts.
Astrophysics.
Any councillors wish to make comment? Councillor Inglis?
Mr Mayor, just to make the observation that it was great to see the amount of community feedback. I mean, 86 responded. That's pretty good, which just highlights obviously the interest in it, and it is such an important precinct in the growth of the city and the region over a long period of time. It's a massive site, but what was pleasing from all the sort of general synopsis of the respondents was that there was clearly good support for the strategic directions of the master plan, and that's what it all is at this point, because it's all got to get costed up, and once that's done, of course, we'll be able to get it ready for grant programs. It's the way we've traditionally done our business, and it's a good way to do things, to be ready as those grant programs make themselves available. So we'll get on with the costings. Just also picking up Councillor Wilson's point, I think the naming of the precincts is something that's really important. And for me, I'd strongly encourage us thinking about trying to connect the Indigenous history, the Aboriginal heritage history up there, because there's actually a lot of connections in that site. And so in the naming of precincts, or the naming of the entire maybe, I think there's a good opportunity to link that Aboriginal heritage with that huge site, with the naming of various precincts and places of interest and that sort of thing. And my only other observation, Mr Mayor, is I also think there's great opportunities for us to pursue opportunities for the men's shed to link in with that whole tourism. And so what opportunities are in there for them to join part of that, in like maybe it's the sale of things, whatever, but they're an enthusiastic bunch up there, and I think there's a great opportunity for them to grow their facility as well as part of all that.
Yep. Thank you. Any further comments, councillors? Councillor MP?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'll agree with all the other councillors' comments as well. It really is important to see the entire precinct move forward, that in hand with the growth of the city and the growth of the region, of course, as well. I also think it's a wonderful opportunity to establish, or at least seek out further partnership opportunities. And I have had some conversations with staff about this. The Department of Education Training, for instance, through their environmental education centres, of which there are 25 throughout the state. I think it's a perfect spot for one of those, as well as other partnership opportunities with CSIRO and other science organisations, environmental organisations. There are so many opportunities to engage and produce partnerships that will be fruitful for the region or for the precinct, but also help with increasing the opportunity base to see some of those plans and some of those ideas that come forward from the community to actually happen without the essential requirement on its own of government funding or state or federal funding. I think there's opportunities for private funding and other partnership opportunities.
Thank you very much. Any further comments, councillors? Councillor Webb?
Just a very quick one, Mr Mayor. Changing the name does worry me a bit. I'm quite happy with it being Victoria Park. I've known it as Victoria Park since I was a kid. But we've got to remember that the railway people up there, they call theirs the Victoria Park railway. So we need to be careful that we don't interfere with some of the marketing that's already gone on for years and years and years. So I certainly would be very cautious on looking for name changes.
Thank you. Any final comments, Councillor Rowe?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, during consultation with the community, there was a few people that indicated that they were happy that we wouldn't do too much up there, particularly those that use the Flagstaff track. They thought that they didn't want to do anything that increased the numbers of people that might otherwise use that in terms of alternatives to pedestrian use. So yeah, that's there was a lot of community input. There was also obviously that feedback that sometimes we're better off not gilding the lily too much.
Thank you. Any final comments? If not, I'll put the motion. Councillors, those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The motion is carried. Item 8.3. Move Councillor Rodder and Councillor Maxwell, thank you. Councillor Rodder, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a great report, and I certainly support the waiving of those fees because, as we've seen in recent times, just last weekend, Tamworth was chockers with visitors to our city, and I think an event like this will further bring those numbers to Tamworth, which is obviously vital during these times of want and woe. And I think that something like this is historically demonstrated a great event for our city, and certainly we have historically shown our support for it, and I hope that we continue tonight.
Thank you. Any councillors wish to speak against the motion? Any councillors wish to make comment? Councillor Betts.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just briefly, totally support the recommendation, but it highlights again to me that the events levy is critical for the growth of Tamworth, one of the areas of growth of Tamworth, because while this particular allocation of funds, there is a short excess in the budget that allows us to be able to do that. But if we didn't have that excess, it would have had to come out of somewhere else that the council would have had to find. And this is a relatively small amount, but for a major outcome. If we continue down that path without the events levy, I think we will miss so much opportunity for the growth of Tamworth. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comments, councillors? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The motion is carried. Item 8.4.
Move it.
Councillor Webb and Councillor Tickle, thank you. Councillors, part of this motion of Councillor Webb's is that we nominate representatives to attend this conference. Councillor Webb, do you wish to speak to the motion before we have that conversation?
Mr. Mayor, I think that we should have some staff representation there along with the councillor if one of the councillors wishes to attend. I think there should be definitely staff representation there.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Logan is included in that visit. So, any councillors wish to speak against? Any councillors wish to make comment? Councillor Maxwell.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just a comment that I wouldn't mind attending that.
Thank you. And
No
Councillor
other
Betts.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I certainly think that we should have representation there, and I'm happy to attend because while the drought, sort of major proportion is theoretically behind us, it's absolutely critical now that we keep up the momentum to ensure that the water security of our Peel and Tamworth region is looked after and kept up, and we need to put the pressure on for the water sharing plan. And I know, looking through the agenda, there's ample opportunity that we can sort of lobby for that continuation of water security for Tamworth. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comments, councillors? Any further volunteers? If not, the motion will record that Councillor Maxwell and Councillor Betts will attend along with Mr. Logan. So that being the finish of the debate, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The motion is carried. Item 9.1, Councillor Inglis and Councillor Wilson, thank you. Councillor Inglis, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Oh, Mr Mayor, just a couple of observations. I note with great interest the rates, the outstanding rates and annual charges, 25%. I don't think I've ever seen that high. I'd be interested just a little bit. Is that's a COVID issue, I guess? I mean, I know generally we're around the 7% on that one.
No, it's just that the last instalment hasn't been paid.
Or is it just bad timing?
Yeah, bad time.
Yeah, right, because that's wow. Yeah, so that's purely a timing issue.
Yeah, last instalment's not due.
Yeah, right, okay, great. I don't need an answer tonight, Mr Mayor, but I'd be interested, the Peel River Pier investigations, 50 grand. Be great just to get a bit of feedback on where that's up to in relation to that and when we might know the finish of that. And just a question to Mr Logan, the new Dungowan Dam pipeline assistance, 40 grand. I'm just curious what we're paying for there. And do we expect to receive any further bills for the Dungowan Dam?
Mr Mayor, we've engaged a design of the pipeline. We've engaged a consultant to advise us in relation to some aspects of the design of the Dungowan pipeline to make sure that it does meet our requirements, and sometimes it can get a bit technical. So we've asked for a consultant to assist us with that, and they'll be helping us for the complete length, and I don't think it'll end up being that much money, but that's one of the reasons why we've engaged that consultant.
Thank you. Any councillors wish to speak against the motion? Any councillors wish to make comment? No, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The motion is carried. And item 9.2, Councillor Inglis, Councillor Tickle, thank you. Councillor Inglis, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Oh, thanks, Mr Mayor. I've just got a couple of questions. See page 98 in the annexures, Capital News, expense decrease of 47k, an income increase of 11k. Maybe not for tonight, but as you know, Mr Mayor, we made a number of decisions on quite a few of those assets. It'd be good just to get a bit of info on how that's gone. You know, how has the Capital News thing as a project? Because I guess it's been there for a couple of years there now. It'd be just good to get a bit of feedback on that. It's just interesting, you know, it always grabs your eye when expenses go down and income goes up. It'd be, okay, wonder what's going on there. Mr Mayor, on page 99, the airport security screening expenses increase of 150 grand. That sort of grabbed my eye too, because as you know, the numbers are massively down.
Yep.
So I'd be interested just to find out, I know we passed that on, but if we could just get a bit of feedback on why that's jumped, that just jumps out at me. As I say, because the numbers are down, so you'd think that'd be coming down unless it's a ramp up. Yeah, so it'd be good just to get a bit of information. I don't expect an answer now.
No. Okay, thank you. Any councillors wish to speak against the motion? Any councillors wish to make comment? No, I'll put the motion, thank you. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The motion is carried. Item 9.3. Move Councillor Inglis and Councillor Rodder, thank you. Councillor Inglis, do you wish to speak to 9.3?
Mr Mayor, just to make the observation, and it really just reminded me and, you know, our financial position and all the rest of it. And as you know, with an investment portfolio that averages anywhere between 160 million and 180 million, the interest rate environment is giving us a huge whack. And it just really jumped out when you see there. I noticed, there was about $11 million worth of investments that were coming off during that period. And they were giving us about 350 grand a year on those prior investments, and they've come off, and so we have to reinvest them, and we're whacking them back in at about 0.1%, which gives you 11k. So just on that small chunk of money,
Yeah.
when I say 11 mil, it's not a small chunk, out of our total portfolio, it's not a large sum. It just makes the point though, doesn't it? That's going from, we're actually on what we had that invested at and what we've now got it at. It averages around $7,000 a week down, losing.
Yes.
Just by that little chunk of money that's just come off investments that we had, prior to the lower interest rates. And that's only 11 million out of our total portfolio. So I didn't really want to do the larger figure because that makes me sad enough.
Thank you. Any councillors wish to speak against the motion? Any councillors wish to make comment? Not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The motion is carried. Item 9.4. Move Councillor Wilson and Councillor Maxwell. Thank you. Councillor Wilson, do you wish to speak to the motion? Any councillors wish to speak against? Any councillors wish to make comment? Not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The motion's carried. And item 9.5.
Move it.
Move Councillor Webb and Councillor Maxwell. Thank you. Councillor Webb, do you wish to speak to?
No, Mr Mayor, straightforward.
Any councillors wish to speak against? Any councillors wish to make comment? Councillor Inglis, I thought
Just a quick comment, Mayor. Mr Mayor, that's something we should think about. Probably should have thought of it before now, but I didn't. But when you just see it like that, for those sort of simple matters, to think that you have to go through the full-blown requirements of the Act for it's ridiculous. There should actually be some sort of reduced methodology, greatly reduced methodology when they are just plain and simple requests like that. To think that you've got to go through the Boundaries Commission process with all those other requirements for simple amendments to the boundary at the request of the ratepayers themselves. It's something to think about in our next set of motions, but there really should be a simpler process.
Absolutely agree, Councillor Wilson. Any councillors wish to make comment? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The motion is carried. And item 9.6. Councillor Maxwell and Councillor Tickle, thank you. Councillor Maxwell, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Mr Mayor.
Any councillors wish to speak against? Any councillors wish to make comment? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The motion is carried. And that brings us to item 10.1. Move Councillor Wilson and Councillor Tickle, thank you. Councillor Wilson, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just, Mr Mayor, to say this is a really worthwhile organisation. It's outside Tamworth. There are 5 other councils that work cooperatively for benefit of scale, for sharing of ideas, for support for one another, for borrowing and sharing resources. I think the only locally regional council not involved is Armidale. And it was quite pleasing last meeting to have a representative from the Armidale University Library come and speak with the group. So it's just one way that shows that the regions can work collaboratively across boundaries and achieve good results and positive outcomes. So just supporting it yet again. Bill Haslam is retiring after many, many years as chair of this organisation. So that'll be a turnover.
Thank you. Any councillors wish to speak against the motion? Any councillors wish to make comment? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The motion is carried. Item 10.2. Move Councillor Wilson and Councillor Inglis. Councillor Wilson, do you wish to speak to this motion?
Mr Mayor, I think it's exciting to have one of our artworks go to the Austrian Museum of Applied Arts in Vienna, and I actually Googled it to see what it was like, and the building is so impressive. It's exactly as one would imagine the Museum of Applied Arts be in Vienna. So anybody who's interested, Google it and have a look. So it's how good is that works of note are being requested from our library and from our gallery, and we can cooperate and perhaps we can ask for exchange of a rinwire or something at some stage down the track. Who knows? But we do have a gallery of note, and the history of this particular work is quite interesting, particularly those who are fond of trees.
Thank you. Any councillors wish to speak against the motion? Any councillors wish to make comment? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The motion is carried. Item 10.3. Move Councillor Betts and Councillor Inglis. Councillor Betts, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, Mr Mayor.
Any councillors wish to speak against? Any councillors wish to make comment? Councillor Inglis.
Mr Mayor, just a quick comment. It's fantastic that we got this gig, and I know staff put a lot of work into the application, and it's a significant program actually, and covers the entire region in relation to training and all the rest of it. But just one observation, Mr Mayor, and I will have a chat to Bridget under my hat as the chair of TRACAC, and that's around the intellectual property rights issue. Because I noticed in the contracts it's now talking about moral right consents. Good Lord, that I'm not even sure about that just yet, but I'm thinking that in the context of Indigenous history, and so we'll just need to get our head around that one.
Thank you. Any councillors wish to speak against the motion? Any councillors wish to make comment? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The motion is carried. And item 10.4. Moved Councillor Webb and seconded Councillor Tickle. Thank you. Councillor Webb, do you wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Webb, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, sorry.
Thank you. Any councillors wish to speak against? Sorry to wake you up. Any councillors wish to speak against? Any councillors wish to make comment? If not, I'll put the motion. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? The motion is carried. And councillors, that brings us to the end of the public section of the meeting. I make an offer to any members of the public to bring any matters of items 11(1) through 4 for open council for consideration, or any members of the council. If not, I'd invite those members of the media and the community to vacate the chamber. Thank you very much for your interest and attention.
Thank you.
And councillors, now I'd like a motion to move items 11(1) through 4 into closed council for consideration. Move Councillor Maxwell and Councillor Webb. Thank you. Evening, thank you, and seconded by Councillor Maxwell, thank you. Those in favour, against,
Aye.
carried. Thanks, Bruce.
Nobody yet there? Nobody yet there? Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, this is the report of the closed session of the ordinary council meeting held on the 25th of May 2021. In closed council, you considered 4 items, 12.1 through 12.4. For each of the first 3 items, 12.1, 2 and 3, you adopted the recommendations, but also with the addition of the authority to apply the seal to the contract if required. And for item 4, you adopted the recommendation as per the business paper.
So can we just have a motion to accept that? Councillor Betts and Councillor Tickle, thank you. Those in favour, against, carried. Do we have any advice or any?
No, I don't think so. None of the staff advice. We need to.
Do we get
Well,
still off it?
So formally close